In tonight's headlines, President Xi tells visiting U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken that both sides have made some positive progress, but there are issues to be tackled, and there's room for further development. Home prices in Hong Kong rebound in March, rising 1% month-on-month, ending an 11-month slide. And Hong Kong stocks hit a 5-month high after biggest weekly gain in over a decade.
President Xi Jinping met with U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken at the Great Hall of the People in Beijing as part of efforts to shore up ties between the world's two largest economies. This was Blinken's second visit to China within a year and came close following a visit by U.S. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen earlier this month. Xi told Blinken that the two nations should be partners instead of rivals, seek common ground while reserving differences, and avoid engaging in vicious competition. He reiterated Beijing's three principles of mutual respect, peaceful coexistence, and win-win cooperation. Xi said that China would be pleased to see a confident, open, and prosperous United States, and hoped that Washington could maintain a positive attitude towards Beijing's development.
I think we've seen progress in these areas of cooperation, particularly restoring military communications, on counter-narcotics, thinking together about the future of artificial intelligence, and working to strengthen our people ties. We are committed to maintaining and strengthening the lines of communication between us.
This comes amid tensions over the passing of a bill by the U.S. Senate, which would provide billions of dollars in aid to Taiwan, as well as a nationwide ban of TikTok in the U.S. if its Chinese parent company, ByteDance, does not sell its stake. Earlier in the day, Blinken held talks with Foreign Minister Wang Yi. Wang acknowledged that the relationship between the two countries is beginning to stabilize, but it is still being tested by negative factors. He warned that the U.S. must not cross any red lines on Beijing's sovereignty, security, or development. Wang raised concerns over the suppression of China's right to development and constant challenges to its core interests. He added that the two countries face a choice between stability and a downward spiral. Blinken, meanwhile, acknowledged the importance of maintaining open communication, but emphasized the necessity of face-to-face diplomacy to address differences and prevent misunderstanding.
To make sure that we're as clear as possible about the areas where we have differences, at the very least, to avoid misunderstandings, to avoid miscalculations. That really is a shared responsibility that we have, not only for our own people, but for people around the world, given the impact that the relationship between our countries has around the world.
Both sides have their own agendas for now, and future high-level engagements are not ruled out. Cheryl Yun, Cable News.
Hong Kong and Shanghai are stepping up in collaboration, strengthening ties with 20 new agreements, as well as reaching consensus on 65 projects in other areas, including innovation technology, industrial development, finance, and more. Speaking at the 6th plenary section of Hong Kong-Shanghai Cooperation Conference at government headquarters, Chief Executive John Lee said Hong Kong is excited to integrate development strategies with Shanghai and create a new future in this cross-city cooperation. Alongside Lee, the session was co-chaired by Shanghai Mayor Gong Zheng. Hong Kong has always been one of the major export markets and the largest source of foreign investment into Shanghai, said Lee. Since the conference was established in 2003, the total investment from Hong Kong businesses in Shanghai has grown from $2 billion to $17.4 billion last year, Lee added. Police have arrested a 67-year-old suspect for illegally possessing firearms. Officers did not reveal the identity of the man who was arrested 2 days ago after numerous weapons, including 18 guns, 11 knives, 4 daggers and more than 100 bullets were seized from his self-storage unit in Shatin, which was registered under a false name. Police said the man has previously held firearm licenses for various types of guns, but all of them were revoked in 2008.
According to our investigation, currently we do not have any evidence showing that the arrested person is connected to any previous riot or violent cases. We tend to believe that this arrested person is just a firearms fanatic.
The firearms seized are suspected to be illegally obtained from overseas, and police are further investigating the matter. Heavy rain lashed many parts of Hong Kong this morning, and the intense downpour prompted the observatory to issue the amber rainstorm signal. Going up at around 8:30 a.m., the signal was in force for nearly 5 hours, with most parts of the city receiving more than 30 millimeters of rainfall by noon. The districts of Sai Kung and Sha Tin recorded more than 100 millimeters of rainfall. A 10-meter-tall retaining wall at Tsuen Wan Chinese Permanent Cemetery collapsed this afternoon following hours of heavy rainfall. Firefighters from the disaster response and rescue team arrived at the scene and searched for vital signs before sealing off the area for safety reasons. Persistent heavy rain and squally thunderstorms are expected next week. Persistent downpours across parts of southern China have caused major flooding in low-lying areas. Many areas in Guangdong, northeastern Guangxi, and southern Jiangxi were inundated, leaving residents trapped and desperate for help. Trees were uprooted by the heavy downpour, and roads were damaged by landslides, making access to affected areas difficult. Aid delivery to remote areas was slow as rescuers had to navigate through gushing water. Traffic in many parts was disrupted, bringing normal life to a standstill. The Mainland's National Meteorological Center said most of the affected areas received a high cumulative rainfall of 200 to 350 millimeters in this month so far, and more heavy rain is expected over the next few days. Millions of Indians went to the polls in the second phase of voting in a mammoth 6-week election process. Voters across 13 states cast their ballots for 88 seats of the 543-member lower house of the Indian Parliament. There are 5 more rounds of voting yet to go before the results are announced on June 4th. Prime Minister Narendra Modi is seeking a record third term in office, and his ruling BJP party is hoping to win more than 400 seats this time around.
Private home prices in Hong Kong saw a rebound last month, putting an end to a 10-month period of decline. According to the Rating and Valuation Department, the private flat price index rose to 305.7 in March, marking a 1% increase from the previous month. This came after the government lifted all the remaining property cooling measures in late February. However, prices were still down by more than 13% year-on-year. Experts predict that prices will continue to remain low due to rapid release of new property sales by developers, featuring significant discounts. This led to a surge in buyers primarily interested in purchasing second homes. Hong Kong stocks ended the week with big gains, ending in positive territory for a 5th straight session. Amid renewed optimism, the Hang Seng Index, which closed 2.1% higher today, rallied 1,427 points through the week, appreciating roughly 9% to cross the 17,000-point mark. Tech stocks led the rally today, with e-commerce platform JD.com up 5.7%. Marking its first overseas expansion in Saudi Arabia, food delivery platform Meituan jumped 3.6%. With a travel boom about to take off during the upcoming Golden Week holidays, online travel portal Trip.com reached a new 52-week high, gaining 3%.
The Bank of Japan kept interest rates unchanged after the central bank projected inflation to stay at 2% over the next 3 years. As widely expected, the Bank of Japan maintained its short-term interest rate target at a range of 0 to 0.1% after a meeting in Tokyo today. Staying in line with its decision to buy government bonds, the bank said it had purchased about $38.5 billion worth of bonds last month. Following the announcement of interest rates remaining unchanged, the Japanese currency slid to a record low against the US dollar. The yen closed at 156.82 to the greenback touching a fresh 34-year low.
The levels of so-called greenhouse gases in the atmosphere reached record highs last year after growing at a rapid pace, according to researchers at the U.S. National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration.
We saw record high levels of carbon emission in 2023, and in the atmospheric CO2 increase are very substantial last year, and that is a result of the record high fossil emission of CO2. And on top of it, the natural system also responds to a high temperature in 2023, partially driven by global warming and from also the transition of La Nina to El Nino year.
Apart from carbon dioxide, scientists are also worried about the surge in atmospheric levels of methane, which dissipates quicker but is more potent in trapping heat. Both gases jumped over 5% over the past decade.
Some of the major sources of atmospheric methane including the human agriculture activities like the livestock cultivation, rice paddies, and waste and landfill. And of course, fossil fuel methane is another important and substantial source of methane.
Under the 2015 Paris Agreement, nations have agreed to limit global warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius. But climate experts say not enough has been done by first world countries to keep that pledge.